Sixth meeting to order for the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of North Charleston. If we have 3 zoning variance applications tonight, if you are not the applicant and you want to speak on a variance, I need you to sign up if you haven't already, right here. Please silence your phones. The way this is going to work is Mr. Wedge will read the staff report for each variance application. The applicant will address the board if they like. Anyone who signed up may speak and address the board at that time as well. At that time, I'll entertain any motions and discussion from the board, and we will vote. But with that, the first order of business tonight is the consideration of the March 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wedge, if you would read the first variance, please.
Yeah, of course. First, I'll go through the slideshow for it. So today we have a request for a variance from Article 8, Section 811E2, relating to the maximum signage area for the property addressed as 2150 West Oak Grove Drive
Thank you.
in the B2 General Business Zoning District, Council District 6. As you can see, this property is sort of nestled in between Rivers Ave on the right and I-26 on the left, up along Remount Road to the south here. And they have requests for a variance from the signage ordinance. This is the Jones Ford location facing I-26. And so the representative of Tanya Bullington of Apollo Sign and Light on behalf of the property owner David Walters Jr. of Jones Ford and WCW Enterprises LLC is seeking a variance from Article 8, Section 811E2 relating to the maximum wall signage allowable for the property addressed as 2150 West Oak Grove Drive in the B2 General Business Zoning District, Council District 6. Per Section 85E4, for sign structures and wall signs containing multiple modules, the sign face shall be calculated by reference to the area of the rectangle, which, if drawn, would fully encompass all sign modules. Because the signs shown on the south elevation on sheet A20 are located on the same facade, see following paragraph for discussion of the facade, the area of the proposed wall sign is thus calculated as the size of the rectangle, which would encompass all 3 signs. As shown on sheet A20, or 8200, excuse me. That rectangle is approximately 11 and a quarter feet tall by 417 feet wide, with an area of approximately 4,691 square feet. Section 85G specifies that for the purposes of sign area calculations and measurements, calculations shall be made with the entirety of a sign's building orientation, i.e. south face, north face, etc., being considered a single wall, without regard to the existence of any offsets or bump outs. Thus, referring to sheet A200, the total area of the south-facing facade is approximately 12,200 square feet. Per sheet A200, the height of the building ranges from 28 to 32 feet, and the width of the building is 427.5 feet. Section 811E2 specifies that the aggregate area of the wall signs plus the aggregate area of the window signs displayed on any given facade of a building may not exceed 15% of the area of that facade. As discussed earlier, the south-facing facade of the building measures to be 12,200 square feet, which would allow a maximum of 1,830 square feet of wall and window signage along the entirety of the building orientation. Based on the manner in which the ordinance has been calculated, the proposed signage, when paired with the existing signage, measures 4,691 square feet. When all 3 sets of signs are measured individually, they measure out to be 237 feet, 736 feet, and 814 feet, totaling 1,787 feet, which would meet the requirement to be under the 15% threshold set forth in the zoning ordinance. As such, the applicant is requesting a variance relating to the maximum allowable signage set forth by Section 811E2. Per Section 773 of the city zoning regulations, the board must make the following findings to grant the variances. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The application states the building is altering the current signage because Ford Motor Company has recognized the Jones Ford branch and is replacing their signage to reflect this. The application states that the current signage ordinance provides a great deal of difficulty for the property, as the manner in which signage is calculated by the zoning code severely limits the ability to have significantly sized and spaced signage facing I-26. Staff agrees there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions to this particular piece of property, as the proposed signage, when appropriately spaced out throughout the whole width of the facade, is calculated as a singular, very large sign. Due to this large spacing between the three sections of wall signage, staff finds that the property is hindered in its ability to install wall signage. Staff notes that for buildings that have less width, this method of calculating signage is not nearly as limiting and finds this to be an extraordinary and exceptional condition pertaining to the property. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. The application states that the ordinance's current method of calculating signage includes spaces where signage is not proposed to be installed. The application notes that other properties do not have buildings that are as large and do not front upon I-26. Staff believes that the frontage upon I-26 is not generally to apply to most of the properties in the area. Staff also notes that most other properties in the area do not have a facade nearly as wide as the Jones Ford facility and are not as restricted by the spacing between their signage. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece or property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The application states that the inability to install the proposed signage that faces I-26 prevents the property from being identified as a service center and conveying to traffic the services they provide and the brand they represent. Staff agrees that the application of the signage ordinance does make it very difficult for the property to appropriately and effectively convey both their business title and advertise the services provided at the site, which would restrict the utilization of the property. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. The application asserts that the granting of the variances, and thus the installation of the proposed signage, will not be detrimental to adjacent properties or to the public good. Staff does not believe that the proposed signage, if approved, would be of substantial detriment to the adjacent properties or to the surrounding area, given the appropriate sizing and spacing of the signage across the width of most of the building. As noted, staff agrees that the application of the signage ordinance of Section 811E2 is a reasonable deterrent against the signage on a building of this width based on the manner in which the ordinance calculates signage on a single face. Staff notes that the inability to install the proposed signage is not typically seen with buildings of smaller widths, and notes the inability to install the proposed signage harms the ability of the property to advertise its services to the nearby vehicular traffic. Staff also believes that the proposed variance would not harm the character of the area or be of detriment to adjacent properties or to the public good, as when all signs are calculated separately, they would meet the ordinance's requirement and stay below the maximum 15% of the facade. Accordingly, staff recommends approval of the requested variance of Section 811E2 to exceed the maximum allowable wall signage. Also want to note that a copy of the staff report was emailed to the applicant on April 1st, 2026.
Would the applicant care to address the board?
I'm Keith Summy. I'm a car freak. So Jones Ford has been recognized as one of the 110 Ford dealerships that Ford has come along and asked them to put this signage up. They've been recognized as an outstanding dealership for service. And without you moving forward, they're not going to be able to get this put on their building. This is like 110 Ford dealerships, and North Charleston is the only one locally that's getting this from the local Tri-County area. And so it's really a great thing, but we need your help to let the sign go up so they can be recognized for the service that they render. We greatly appreciate your consideration.
Does anyone have questions for staff? Now I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to get some discussion going. Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, to approve.
Second that.
All right, any discussion?
I think some of the points in here are up for debate. I'm leaning towards approve because I do not think it will be a detriment to neighboring properties. But the exceptional conditions, I don't think that applies really here. Essentially, the hardship is application of the zoning code as it's written, which is not a hardship. But like I said, I don't think it's a detriment to the neighborhood, to these surrounding areas, so.
Anyone else?
All right. Ms. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. McElveen?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan? Mr. O'Callahan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
And Mr. Klosser?
Yes. On to the next one.
Alrighty. This is a request for a variance from Article 6, Section 623A1 relating to the minimum side setback requirement for the properties addressed as 1835 Marine Avenue and 1303 H Avenue in the NBRD, Navy Base Redevelopment Zoning District, Council District 10. As you can see, this property juts off of St. John's Ave, and this project is currently under site plan review with plans to combine these two parcels. And you can see along here in the exhibits the portion of the property where they would like to reduce the side setback from 10 to 5 feet. So the applicant, Bennett Rogers of DRB Group, South Carolina, LLC, is seeking a variance from Article 6, Section 623A1, relating to the minimum side yard setback for the property addressed as 1835 Marine Avenue and 1303 H Avenue in the NBRD, Navy Base Redevelopment Zoning District, Council District 10. Section 623A1 specifies the setbacks for NBRD zoned properties for side and rear yards. The required setback is 10 feet from the property line. And Section 3.2 defines a side yard as a yard extending the full length of the lot in the area between the side lot line and a side building line. The applicant is currently going through site plan review to build a 59-unit townhouse-style multifamily development, also known as Navy Yard Townhomes. The applicant's plan on removing the existing structures on site in order to construct multifamily units, while also planning to maintain most of the existing driveway aisles that are currently on site. The site currently has a private road, Truxton Avenue, running through the property that connects to St. John's Avenue that the applicant would like to construct 12 units alongside. The proposed dwelling units would have building footprints that are approximately 956 square feet each. Accordingly, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the 10-foot side setback requirement to 5 feet along 3740 St. John's Avenue. Per Section 773 of the city's zoning regulations, the board must make the following findings to grant the variances. 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. The application states that the extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this property is the need to align the proposed entrance with Truxton Avenue, preserve as many grand trees as possible, the requirement to provide access while minimizing disruption to the neighboring Low Country Orphan Relief Facility, and the unique shape of the subject parcel. The application notes that all of these unique factors combined constrain potential layouts for the property's development and make complying with the required 10-foot side setback behind buildings 3 and 4 impractical. The application also states that applying the standard setback requirement would significantly reduce the space available to cater to these unique circumstances, creating an unnecessary hardship by limiting the ability to construct townhouse-style units consistent with the district's redevelopment goals. Staff agrees that the unique shape of the parcel is an extraordinary and exceptional condition. Staff also agrees that the need to connect to Truxton Avenue and provide access to Low Country Orphan Relief is another exceptional and extraordinary condition pertaining solely to this piece of property. Staff also notes that the proposed side setback reduction does not preserve any grand trees, as many of the grand trees proposed to remain are located on other properties, with none being located in the side yard where the variance is proposed. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The application notes that other properties in the area do not have lot configurations that are as irregular, do not have similar hardships that apply. Staff agrees that the surrounding parcels do not have the same conditions as the subject parcel due to the efforts to maintain connection with St. John's Avenue and Low Country Orphan Relief. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The application states that the application of the 10-foot side setback requirement would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property because the reduced buildable area would result in impacts to existing grand trees while also impacting the development's ability to provide an ADA accessible path to the SCDOT right-of-way, St. John's Avenue. The application notes that this would damage the character of the proposed Navy Yard townhome site. The application also states that without the granting of a variance, the property cannot be developed in a manner that is consistent with the district's intent to connect communities. The application states the allowance of a 5-foot side setback would provide sufficient separation from the neighboring parcel while enabling reasonable use of the property. Staff disagrees that the application of the 10-foot side setback requirement unreasonably restricts the utilization of the property, as the setback requirement does not limit the ability to construct the other 47 units proposed as part of this development. Staff also notes that the 10-foot side setback requirement being abided by would result in constructing 12 units along Truxton Ave in a slightly smaller footprint. Staff finds that the construction of all 59 proposed parcels is still feasible and thus does not find the application of the ordinance to unreasonably restrict the use of the subject parcel. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. The application states that the granting of the variance will not negatively impact adjacent properties. The application notes that the proposed setback maintains adequate spacing for safety, access, and neighborhood character while supporting the goals of the Navy-based redevelopment zoning district. The application notes that the reduced setback would not impair property values, block access, or create adverse impacts as the proposed setback is adjacent to a Dominion Energy substation. The application also notes that it would allow the property to be reasonably utilized in harmony with the surrounding development, preserving the character of the Navy Yard redevelopment district. The application states the granting of this variance would help minimize impact to the neighboring Low Country Orphan Relief, as adhering to the 10-foot side setback would cause utility relocation and impact access to the parcel, which would disrupt the functionality of Low Country Orphan Relief. Staff agrees the granting of a variance would not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and notes the character of the district would not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Staff finds there are exceptional and extraordinary conditions pertaining to this property due to the irregular lot shape in the connection that Truxton Avenue serves to the neighboring Low Country Orphan Relief Facility. Staff also notes these conditions do not generally apply to nearby properties. Staff finds the granting of the proposed variance would not be of substantial detriment to the surrounding parcels and would not harm the character of the district or the public good. Although sympathetic to the applicant's concerns regarding utilization of the property, staff does not find that the application of the 10-foot side setback requirement unreasonably restricts the utilization of the property. Accordingly, staff recommends denial of the proposed variance to reduce the side setback to 5 feet. A copy of the staff report was emailed to the applicant on April 1st, 2026.
Would the applicant like to address the board?
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Greg Kraft. I'm work with Kimley Horn. We are the site's engineer, project manager for this project, working along with DRB in pursuit of this variance for Navy Yard Townhomes. Thank you all for your time today. As was said, there. Let me pull this a little closer. We also have this CWS easement you kind of see grayed back behind, as well as an access easement proposed to Low Country Orphan Relief with a sidewalk pedestrian pathway. You can see the application mentions trees that are, encroaching into that would potentially be harmed in this process. And a lot of that's due to, a year ago, we went through the subdivision process and went through multiple iterations of site plans. And if we were to push everything up 5 feet to meet the 10-foot setback, or yard setback, we would need a pedestrian access path where you can start to see where the encroachments in this grand tree and this grand tree would go from, I think it was about 40% to over 50% going straight through the canopy. So these, although not immediately in our site, the domino of a 5-foot or an additional 5 feet setback moving north would push encroachment into these trees. We do also have this historic residential quarters building that is proposed to remain, and that's in coordination with SHPO, CZC, that we are not disturbing, as well as an existing, we mentioned Dominion and Low Country Orphan Relief. We are keeping all operations the same. With this 10-yard setback, we would have to relocate water, which would then impact Low Country Orphan Relief water supply daily operations pretty significantly. As far as 5-yard setback being shown, we do have 10 feet in some locations. You can see this property line is not parallel. At about this pinch point, we really only have about 88 feet. With the 24-foot driveway aisle plus curb gutter plus sidewalk, we're looking at about 42 feet. So with a 40-foot townhome, which has been approved working with Navy Yard Charleston, it only leaves 5 feet. So this building footprint that's been approved with city, or sorry, Navy Yard Charleston, and I've provided a letter from Ned Miller, and so DRB's gone through multiple coordination efforts to get these footprints approved. It's something that Navy Yard CDR Charleston specifically wants to see, and it would severely impact the ability to have attainable housing in this district. Specifically speaking on the utilization, there's actually only 55 units being proposed. If these units, if we go to a 10-foot setback, these units can't be built, which would be a decrease of 22% of the proposed units on site for this development. Sorry. Yep. So, we're showing about 5 feet, or well, I guess the proposed side setback would be 5 feet, but you can see in this profile here, the section view, from the property line, we have about 35 feet to this proposed driveway to continue the operations for Dominion, but then we have an additional 115 feet to the next structure, which is this masonry wall for Dominion. So although a side yard setback of 5 feet is only being proposed on our property, it's really 120 feet for the foreseeable future. I think that's really.
So at 55 units, so if you decrease it, it goes down to what?
If we remove these 12, it would decrease to 43, which is a decrease of 22% of the proposed units on site.
I've got a couple of questions. It's hard to see from here. Can you show me where the CWS easement is and where the line is that you're talking about?
So, see this line right here? This is the existing water main, and I mean, it's a little offset, but this is the existing easement.
And that line has to shift if you,
We would have to, because CWS also has development requirements to have separation from a proposed structure to,
And if you have to move that, you said it would disrupt the Low Country Orphan Relief's water supply.
so their water.
For how long?
Until we close out the existing leak, which is not being proposed. So this water main kind of comes straight up like this entire section would need to be disrupted.
So when you say cut off the water, that means they won't have like no water the whole Low Country.
I'm sure there's some temporary measures that could be taken, but again, it's not our parcel. Comes into different agreements, and it would probably affect this project even moving forward.
Low Country Orphan Relief, they have another access point, right? That they don't have to go through your parcel to get to their property?
This existing Charleston Avenue, you can see kind of underneath these trees, this is an existing use right here. This is their access. So we're proposing improvements, infrastructure improvements, drainage, and working with that small project.
I got a couple more questions.
Yeah,
These units, they look like park unders. Is that one space?
Yes, so
Per unit?
these units are proposing a garage, but we do also need to meet off-street parking requirements, so additional 8 feet here.
That requirement is what? You have to park at so many spaces per unit?
Yes, I have it written here. The requirement is 1 per 300 square feet, so the requirement is 16, and we're proposing 17. Total off-street parking. So of that, we have 43, 11 of those spaces are parallel along this
in this section that we're looking at, you're required to have 16 parking spaces. You have to have 16 on-street parking spaces for the site. And how many do you have on your site plan?
We're proposing, off-street parking, we're proposing a total of 17. So of those 17, 11 are on this entrance. And that's to help with, the feasibility of living, parking, having multiple vehicles. For residents.
And
Sorry,
this
how
is,
many-
oh, go ahead.
How many bedrooms are these units here, building 3 and 4?
I provided a footprint. I don't have it in front of me. Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, they're 3-bedroom standard. And has there been consideration to reduce the footprint of buildings 3 and 4?
Yes, we've gone through multiple iterations of coordination with Navy Yard Charleston, with City of Charleston, or City of North Charleston, as we were in the subdivision process. But yes, multiple. And they've been approved now with Navy Yard Charleston.
What has been approved as is with 3-bedroom? With the option of
3-bedroom, the footprint that provided, that I'm showing now, as far as a 40-foot depth.
I have a question for staff, specifically with the Navy-based redevelopment zoning. What are those requirements? I mean, what kind of zoning are we talking about? Because that seems to be the issue. Item number 3, can this property be utilized per the zoning? What is Navy-based redevelopment zoning? So the redevelopment, the Navy-based redevelopment zoning district is, it's obviously overseen by the city, that's why we're here today, but then we've got a letter from the Navy Yard of Charleston. What is their role in ensuring, one, that those redevelop, or those zoning, requirements are met? Do they weigh in there? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah.
A second.
The second, we've got a second. Any discussion?
I'll say my bit. I agree with staff that this does not adversely affect the utilization of the property by sticking with the zoning as it is. It looks like some modifications could be made here to the building footprints to adhere to the setbacks and still get close to the unit count that they're looking for, so.
Okay.
Utilization of the property is not really affected.
Anyone
my
else?
My only point.
Sure. My thinking on all of this is that you've got a specialty district that's been developed in part with, or in partnership with the Navy Yard, Charleston. And they're blessing it. And to me, that carries some weight. But I do agree with you that the way the law reads and what we have at our disposal to do, maybe not, but call a vote. And just to be clear, we need 4 affirmative votes to pass this. So, there being no further discussion, call the vote.
Alrighty. Ms. Harper?
Deny, no.
Mr. McElveen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Callahan?
No.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Klosser?
Yes. Motion fails, variance is denied.
Thank you.
The last item we have on the agenda is a variance from Article 6, Section 61C2C, relating to the minimum separation requirement for an accessory building for the property addressed as 4650 Jenkins Avenue in the R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District, Conservation Overlay District, and Council District 10. This property is located on the corner of Jenkins Avenue and Hatfield Street. It's across the street from North Charleston High School. And the property owners, Bernard and Jessica Casey, are seeking a variance from Article 6, Section 61C2C, relating to the minimum separation requirement for an accessory building for the property addressed as 4650 Jenkins Avenue in the R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District, Old North Charleston Neighborhood Conservation District, Council District 10. The owners are seeking to construct a 10 by 5 foot shed in their side yard with no separation from the house and 6 feet away from the side property line. The subject lot, located at the intersections of Jenkins Avenue and Hatfield Street, has a shallow rear yard which ranges in depth from 10 to 22 feet. The lot had a required 13.85 foot rear setback at construction, and the 2 required parking spaces are located in the rear yard in a tandem-style layout due to the limited rear yard space. Additionally, the site also has a side yard along the northern property line with 4656 Jenkins Avenue, ranging from 8 feet to 16 feet. While Section 61C2C requires 6 foot setbacks from other structures and 3 foot setbacks from interior lot lines, the contemplated shed is proposed 0 feet from the existing home on the lot and 6 feet from the northern side property line, as shown on the provided site plan. A variance to the minimum required separation requirement of 6 feet for an accessory use building is thus requested. Per Section 773 of the City Zoning Regulations, the board must make the following findings to grant the variance. Number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The application notes that the existing property layout does not provide other possible locations for a shed, as the rear yard is used to fulfill the minimum off-street parking requirement for a single-family dwelling unit. The application also notes that the rear portion of the property has notable gradient and incline and is better suited to retain its current use as the driveway and parking area for the property, thus making the side yard that is not facing Hatfield Street the most appropriate location to place the desired shed. Staff agrees that there is limited area for an accessory building and notes the property's location on a corner with parking at the rear does severely limit potential locations for any accessory structures. Staff considers the existing layout of the property and limited rear and side yard space as extraordinary and exceptional conditions that pertain to this particular piece of property. Number 2, the application states that the other lots have conventional and usable rear yards, more rectangular lot configurations, non-tandem parking layouts, and are able to have space to fit a 150 square foot shed while still abiding by the city zoning regulations. The application also states that due to these conditions, many other properties in the area have functional rear yards that allow for placement of an accessory structure. Staff finds the lack of available lot area to install an accessory structure is unique in this area, as the majority of the properties in the area have space to allot for an accessory use structure in the rear or side yard. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The application notes that although the ordinance does not prohibit accessory use structures entirely, it limits the practical and functional placement on this particular property due to minimum parking requirements and setback and separation requirements make placing a shed in the rear yard difficult due to the current parking layout, grade, and constrained maneuverability. Staff notes that the property is already developed with a single-family dwelling unit, which may remain and be used indefinitely. Staff also notes that the inability to install an accessory use structure is restrictive to this particular piece of property, as many of the surrounding properties have an accessory structure on site. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. The application states that residential accessory storage is commonly found throughout the district and asserts that the proposed shed will not be detrimental to neighboring homes nor negatively affect the public good. The application also notes that the proposed structure will mostly be screened from street view and maintain a minimum distance of at least 5 feet of separation from the interior lot line. Staff agrees that the granting of the variance would not be a detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good and finds no reason to believe that the character of the district will be harmed by the granting of the variance. Staff understands the applicant's desire to have a shed placed in the side yard and finds that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions that are unique to this property that hinder the placement of an accessory building on the property. Staff also notes that the installation of the shed would not be of detriment to the public good or be a nuisance to neighboring properties. Additionally, staff finds the application of the ordinance is rather restrictive to this particular parcel. Accordingly, staff recommends approval of the requested variance to reduce the minimum separation requirement between an accessory building and a structure from 6 to 0 feet in the side yard. A copy of the staff report was emailed to the applicant on April 1st, 2026.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? The applicant care to address the board?
A couple of notes about the placement and why I'm proposing pitting it in the side yard versus the rear yard. As mentioned, that far right side there is really not much room. That driveway area is full crushed rock gravel material on an incline. So if you think about putting a shed there, that's what you're walking on. Although this drawing shows tandem parking, we're actually able to park two cars side by side right now. If we were to place a shed or any structure in that corner, that takes that away, and essentially we have to play, swapping cars around in and out to get out. Placing it in the rear yard, you're essentially moving it further away from the adjacent properties, so it's less of an impact. With the way the current ordinance is written, it'll be about 3 feet away from the other properties if it were in the corner. By moving into the rear yard, you're 5 to 6 feet from one property, then 20 plus feet on the other property. That side of the house, you have 2 or 3 crepe myrtles facing the street. So if you're coming down Jenkins, you really wouldn't be able to see that structure. And from Hatfield, because it's directly behind the house, you wouldn't see it there at all. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have one question for staff, actually.
Okay.
Does an accessory structure like this have to adhere to the building setbacks? Setback line?
Accessory structure has its own setback requirements, so hence the 3-foot setback from the property line.
Okay.
And then 6 feet from another structure. This would meet the setback requirement from the property line.
Okay, got it.
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion?
All right. Ms. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. McElveen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Klosser.
Yes.
Do you have any updates for the UDL at all? Okay.
As y'all know, we're starting at the beginning of the zoning rewrite. We've been working with our consultants for the last couple of months to establish an outreach plan, communications, et cetera. We will be launching the website here. This is the plan. And once the
down this end.